The movie opens with a house equipped with numerous cameras. The story revolves around Daniel and his wife, Shelley, who live in this house. Shelley suffers from a condition called sleepwalking, but with a twist. Each night, she walks out of the house, stands in the same spot, and gazes at the sky. Every morning, Daniel finds her in that exact position, and when he asks her about it, she has no memory of what happened. To understand what's going on, Daniel installs cameras throughout the house so he can show her the footage. Through this, they discover that this unusual behavior has been happening for quite some time. Shelley has been under the care of Dr. Lucas, who believes the cause of her condition is the emotional trauma she experienced after losing their child. Despite treatment, Shelley continues her nightly ritual of standing outside, staring at the sky. The doctor reassures Daniel that Shelley will recover soon, attributing her ongoing struggles to her grief. In the following scene, a news report reveals that a mysterious pandemic is spreading worldwide. The illness is transmitted through mosquito bites, causing a range of diseases in humans. In response, Daniel takes precautions by spraying mosquito repellent around their home. One day, a neighbor stops by and asks about Shelley's condition, mentioning that he sees her outside every night, staring at the sky for hours. Daniel acknowledges this, revealing that he is deeply concerned about Shelley's behavior. After discussing it with her, Shelley reluctantly agrees for Daniel to upload the footage of her nightly ritual to social media, hoping that someone might be able to offer help. Daniel is frustrated with their doctor, who seems somewhat detached and only attempts to explain her condition without offering any concrete solutions. The next night, Daniel makes a bold decision. He resolves to follow Shelley and figure out what's happening during her sleepwalking episodes. As Shelley steps outside, Daniel quietly grabs his camera and shadows her, intent on bringing her back to reality. As he follows her, trying to remain inconspicuous, he suddenly notices a change in her behavior. Shelley stops, holds Daniel's hand, and, with an unsettling calmness, looks up at the sky. Then, without warning, she lets out a spine-chilling scream, her voice filled with terror. The scream echoes through the night, sending a shiver down Daniel's spine as he stands frozen in disbelief. The following morning, Daniel showed Shelley the video he had recorded of her the previous night. Shelley was shocked and couldn't comprehend what was happening to her. She tried to replicate the scream she made in the video, but she failed. Desperate for answers, Daniel shared everything with Dr. Lucas, hoping for a solution. However, the doctor continued to offer vague explanations, failing to provide any real answers or treatment. Meanwhile, a viewer who had seen the video reached out to Daniel with an unusual suggestion. The person advised him to tie Shelley down at night and observe what happens. Reluctantly, Daniel decided to follow the advice. That evening, he restrained Shelley, hoping it would help him understand her strange behavior. As the night wore on, Shelley suddenly began to scream loudly in distress, struggling fiercely against her restraints. In the chaos, she managed to injure her hand in her desperate attempts to break free. The next morning, Shelley confided in Daniel that she felt like a multitude of voices were constantly speaking inside her head, a constant cacophony she couldn't escape. She spent most of the day sitting in front of the TV, staring blankly at the screen as it rattled. When Daniel asked her about it, Shelley admitted that she found comfort in the sound, though it only deepened his concern for her well-being. The following day, another social media user contacted Daniel with another suggestion. This time, the advice was to lock Shelley inside the house and hide the keys in order to observe her reaction. In his desperation, Daniel decided to try it. That night, he locked the door and hid the keys, hoping to finally understand what was going on. But at midnight, something inexplicable happened. Shelley, with eerie calmness, managed to find the hidden keys. She unlocked the door and made her way outside, once again walking to the same spot where she always stood, staring up at the sky. As the days went by, Daniel continued to change the hiding spots for the keys, but no matter where he placed them, Shelley always managed to find them with eerie ease. It seemed like no matter what he did, Shelley's behavior remained unpredictable and unsettling. To make matters worse, Shelley's condition worsened. She could no longer taste food, and the joy she once found in eating was completely gone. In a bizarre outburst, she threw away the mosquito repellent and turned off the machine, as if deliberately inviting the mosquitoes into their home. It felt as though she was beckoning them for some unknown reason. One night, Shelley attempted to leave the house again, searching for the keys to escape. Daniel, still deeply concerned, tried to stop her, but she was adamant. After scolding him harshly, she told him not to follow her, warning him that he didn't understand the gravity of the situation. But Daniel, unable to let go of his worry, refused to listen. Shelley, growing frustrated with his defiance, turned to him and coldly stated, "You are lucky because you are Shelley's husband." With those words, she left the house and ventured into the woods. Daniel stayed up, his mind racing with anxiety, but by the time midnight passed, Shelley returned to their room as if nothing had happened. The next morning, Daniel showed Shelley the footage he had recorded of her actions during the night. Shelley was horrified and deeply troubled, as she had no memory of what had occurred. The videos only deepened her confusion and fear, as she could see herself acting in ways that felt completely alien to her. In In his desperation, Daniel continued to upload the videos to social media, hoping someone might have the answers. On the platform, a variety of people began offering advice. One of the suggestions Daniel received online was to test if Shelley could stay awake. To experiment, Shelley locked herself in a room, and Daniel watched her closely through the cameras outside. As the hours passed, Shelley began to hear strange noises, and she started to faint from exhaustion. In a desperate attempt to keep herself awake, she resorted to cutting her hand. But soon a group of people appeared, turned off all the cameras, and a blinding light filled the room. In an instant, Shelley disappeared. Daniel rushed to open the door from the outside, but it wouldn't budge. She was gone. The following day, Daniel, frantic and confused, went to the police station and filed a missing persons report for his wife. However, the officer who took the report became suspicious of Daniel's story, and his tone grew increasingly doubtful. Just as Daniel was about to lose hope, a user from social media contacted him and calmly assured him that Shelley would return in 6 days. Daniel was confused but held on to that thread of hope. On the 6th day, Shelley miraculously returned home, appearing as though nothing had happened. Daniel, still reeling from the confusion, asked her where she had been for the past 6 days and who the people were that had taken her. Shelley, looking disoriented, simply replied, "I don't remember." Desperate for answers, Daniel contacted the officer again and explained everything that had transpired. The officer listened and then, with a calm demeanor, said that everything was now resolved and advised Daniel to ensure Shelley's safety moving forward. He closed the case, offering no further explanation, but Daniel couldn't let it go. He needed to understand who had taken his wife and what had truly happened to her. Both the officer and Shelley urged him not to pursue it any further, insisting that everything was fine now and that he should focus on taking care of her. The following night, Shelley remained in her bed, not stepping outside as she usually did. Daniel found it hard to believe. Days went by, and Shelley appeared to be back to her normal self, seemingly cured. She stopped taking her medication and seemed more like her old self than ever before. In a sign of progress, Shelley asked Daniel to remove all the cameras around the house. Daniel, overjoyed, felt a sense of relief. It seemed as though everything was finally okay, and Shelley was truly on the mend. He took to social media to share the good news, expressing his gratitude to everyone who had supported them throughout this ordeal. The very next day, as they were returning from a shopping trip, Shelley fell asleep in the car. But out of nowhere, she suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream, a terrifying sound that jolted Daniel out of his seat. Fear washed over him as he tried to understand what was happening. He quickly returned home, shaken by the experience, and posted about it on social media, seeking answers. In response, a user left a chilling comment: "She is not your wife, and she is not human. If you don't believe me, check her blood." The next day, Daniel, consumed by suspicion, secretly installed small cameras around the house without Shelley's knowledge. He wanted to keep a close eye on her and uncover the truth. Later, when Daniel left the house, Shelley began to hear the familiar rattling sound of the TV, a sound that had become unsettlingly associated with her strange episodes. It was then that she discovered the hidden cameras. When Daniel returned home, Shelley was furious. She confronted him, demanding to know why he had been spying on her. A heated argument followed, with Shelley expressing her frustration over the invasion of her privacy. After a long emotional exchange, Shelley declared that she no longer wanted to live with him and would leave the house. In a desperate attempt to hold her, Daniel restrained her, tying her down. His voice shook with anger and fear as he asked, "Who are you and where is my wife?" Shelley remained silent, her eyes cold and distant. In a fit of frustration, Daniel resorted to drastic measures. He cut her hand, hoping to see if she was truly human. The moment the blade touched her skin, a horrifying swarm of insects flooded the room. Daniel recoiled in terror, realizing with a sickening certainty that Shelley was not human. He demanded to know where his wife was, but Shelley's voice remained eerily calm as she replied, "You will never get your wife back." In a fit of rage, Daniel swatted at the insects that had emerged from her hand, killing them as they crawled around him. Shelley, still bound, cried out in pain, and the scream that echoed from her was chilling. Suddenly, the sky outside darkened, and a spaceship appeared above the house, descending slowly toward the ground. As the ship landed, several figures emerged, their appearance eerily similar to Shelley. They began to scream in unison, the same terrifying sound that had filled the night before. Shelley turned to Daniel and coldly said, "You're still alive because you're Shelley's husband." Just as Daniel tried to process her words, the door opened, and Dr. Lucas, along with the officer, walked in. Both of them immediately immediately told Daniel to stop what he was doing, urging him not to take things further. It was in that moment that everything was revealed. Dr. Lucas finally explained the truth to Daniel. He told him that neither he, nor the officer, nor Shelley were human. They were all aliens who had been using humans as hosts to survive. The truth hit Daniel like a shock. It was then that he realized why Dr. Lucas had never offered real solutions. He was one of them. The doctor and the officer were both aliens, just like Shelley. Confused and desperate for answers, Daniel asked why they had chosen humans specifically. Dr. Lucas explained that they had tried using other animals, but they couldn't survive inside them for long. Humans, however, were different. Their bodies were strong enough to host the aliens and allow them to thrive. But there was a grave warning. Dr. Lucas told Daniel that if he harmed Shelley, it would not just hurt her, it would kill many small aliens living inside her body. Daniel insisted that he wanted his wife back, but Dr. Lucas and the officer both told him that was impossible. They asked him to let Shelley go with them, assuring him they wouldn't harm anyone. Daniel refused, declaring that he would never let that happen and that he would expose the truth to the world. Dr. Lucas calmly replied, "Do as you wish, but no one will believe you. The person you tell will most likely be one of us, and in a few days, you'll be one of us too." With that, they took Shelley and left, and Daniel was left standing, helpless and defeated. A few days later, people began talking about aliens, but when it reached the city's important figures, they dismissed it as a joke. The unsettling truth became clear. Many people in that city had been used as hosts by the aliens. The film ends with the chilling realization that the aliens from another planet were small and had made their homes inside human bodies, using them as hosts. To the outside world, no one could tell if someone was truly human or if they were an alien. And so the story concludes, leaving us with the unsettling thought that the aliens had already infiltrated far more deeply than anyone could imagine.